They're all saying that they're around the same level of 87, 88, 89%. And using Convergence, we've found it really good.
Everyone wants to be in on it, whether you're Google, whether you're OpenAI, Anthropic, open source people, and obviously a lot of startups. I think the thing that we don't know, what will be the killer app?
Good morning, Sam.
Morning, Matt. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. You and I were messaging a few days ago about what we were going to talk about this week, and you talked about your video on Gemini browser use taking off. And we over at VentureBeat have been covering the same trend around AI agents that are browsing the web. You don't actually have to be scrolling around the web yourself. You can have an agent do this, right? Operator here in the United States, ByteDance come out with a solution called UI TARS, right? Anthropic had computer use. You could do multiple searches at a single time. The other thing is it's driving towards free, Sam, right? So while you've got the operator under the $200 pro account, you're seeing a bunch of these solutions coming out for free. And then you have the powerful reasoning models that are driving these coming out for free as well. So this is really interesting.
I definitely think we're starting to see sort of a delineation between sort of enterprise agents and maybe consumer agents. And up until now, mostly everything's been either focused on sort of enterprise stuff. Probably the biggest sort of agent that's been out there a lot is coding agents. But I think the consumer agents is just starting to get, taking off. So we had like, OpenAI launched the GPT tasks, which was a bit of a bomb. But then the second one was operator. And I think this has gotten a lot of people excited. OpenAI is certainly not the only company here. You've got Google has got Project Mariner, which is basically the same sort of thing built into Chrome. You've got ByteDance, like they're not happy with just having TikTok. They also want to get in your browser as well. You've got Anthropic has not only released computer use last year, but they're also talking about like having some kind of new virtual assistant or something like that, come out with these kind of skills. So I do think we're seeing a theme across the industry here that everyone is thinking that this is probably going to be the big sort of first main consumer agent. And I think for that reason, it's really interesting to look into.
Right, and you just covered a few of them. There's a big one that's just come out, Proxy for Convergence, based in London. We'll dig into those. But first, let's talk about some of the use cases. Right, when you looked at the operator launch, they focused on some of these typical tasks where you go out and order a pizza, right, using DoorDash, or go to the Warriors site and buy tickets for the Lakers game that's in town in a couple of days, right? Going to all recipes to find recipes for a dish that you can then make, and then buy the groceries on Instacart or your local grocery store. There's other cases, Sam, right? Which are kind of more like automations where, let's say, you want to post regularly on social, right? And then you want to have an agent actually just take some links that you've created somewhere and then go log into Twitter and post them automatically for you, or automate crawls to get certain amounts of certain information that you want, right? Let's say you want to crawl news sites and get that all nice and tidy for you in the morning. You can go in and see that.
I thought that some of the OpenAI examples in their operator demo were a bit convoluted, right, in the way that they're doing it. And you got to wonder, like, come on, by in this day and age, doesn't everyone have their favorite pizza place that, like, is either on speed dial on their phone, or the app is there, or they know exactly the site and sort of, press it. I can imagine if these things can watch you, then you could just tell it, hey, go and order my normal pizza, order and stuff like that. At the moment, that's not what we've got, though. At the moment, we've got something that you sort of give a set of specific tasks. And it seems to me that they're more sort of suited to things like go on Amazon and find me, the best price for this product, or go and do a price comparison of a whole bunch of different products. And that's something that we don't really have yet. And to be honest, though, it seems like most of them are not that good at that. I had to play with Convergence. And I thought it was pretty interesting. Like, what do you think that you would use it for, Matt?
So I use an example where I asked it to, hey, go search VentureBeat for the 5 most popular stories and summarize them briefly. And here's the list of actions, right? Navigate to VentureBeat. You can see the steps that it takes. Opens the first story, summarizes the first story, goes to the second story, and then summarizes them all and just goes through methodically, right? And it did this relatively quickly. Um, and then it comes back with the 5 stories and summarizes them pretty well. And the reason why I like this is because I actually had first used Operator, right, from OpenAI. I asked the same question. The first time I did it, Sam, it actually went into this infinite loop, right? It took a half hour and it was scrolling around VentureBeat trying to find something that would tell it what the most popular stories were. But it couldn't find anything. And so then I came back and I tried again, and what you saw is that it failed again. It actually looked and did a search for the 5 most popular stories, but it found a story that was written 3 years ago, which was titled the top 5 stories of the week, right? Which is kind of random from 3 years ago. Twice it got stuck on the reasoning. I can understand, right? Maybe it was wrong for the right reasons, right? It was really trying to do a definitive job for me, but what I found is that what I liked is that from Proxy, from Convergence, that it had the reasoning to say, "Aha, I'm gonna keep this simple and do what I think is probably approximate to what the user wanted." There are gonna be a whole series of things that enterprise companies can do, on automated tasks that, enterprise companies are doing all the time, right? Right, almost like what Automation Anywhere or UiPath are doing, right? These, robotic automation companies are doing, right? There's a massive market for that.
I certainly think that there's gonna be a commercial use for things like that, and we know that, okay, UiPath and RPA and stuff like that, there's clearly a demand for that. I the big thing is, like most technology though, usually people don't know what actually is gonna be the killer app, right? My guess is it's gonna be things that just take time on the web that you don't actually enjoy. So if someone actually enjoys shopping on Amazon, they're probably not gonna wanna automate that, right? But if someone is just kinda like, yeah, like the example I use in a bunch of these things is that, go and find me the cheapest price for a YubiKey 5C. Uh, and and when I tried it with the browser use, it was kind of so-so. I think when I tried it with Anthropic, it was kind of so-so. But I gotta say, like the Convergence one found it, got me the right price and everything. And you can start to see then, like, hey, uh, you know, here are all the authors I like. Go and check, once a week or once a month, have they released any new books? Right? This kind of thing. Just sort of keeping you in the loop kind of thing. I think those things are really interesting.
Here I'm showing a chart from Convergence, which shows it's doing really well. 88% on the Web Voyager metric versus 87% from Operator. Now it doesn't show browser use, which is at 88%.
Matt, I kind of feel like all these benchmarks, take them with a grain of salt, right? And that's being polite, right? Look, the thing is, while these benchmarks are kind of useful when nobody can get above 20% or something like that, and you see someone break out and get, like we saw with maybe the, software engineering benchmark or something like that. When you're comparing something that's like 88 versus 87 versus 89, really, we're talking about stochastic models, what models are they using, all these sorts of things. So I kind of feel like, I'm not going to say that one is better than the other purely on that. Unfortunately, a lot of the times it is going to be a vibes thing that you're going to have to try this thing out yourself.
They're all saying that they're around the same level of 87, 88, 89%. But like what you and I have both found is that in using Convergence, we've found it really good.
it does seem to be better at realizing, okay, I'm going down a path where maybe there is no clear answer. So at least I should make a decision about it. Um, that's a very common pattern that you see in agents, by the way, is that these things just get into loops, uh, and don't find nice ways out of them. So it is interesting that uh, the OpenAI themselves are having this problem. You got to wonder, I don't know. Do we know what models that Convergence is actually using? Like, are they using their own models? Are they using something proprietary out there already? I they've certainly found a nice balance of how to use the model and how to actually get the result.
Well, my understanding is that they are using a meta model.
In that case, Matt, they've probably fine-tuned it for their use, which makes a lot of sense, right? And that would actually give them some real IP to take on people like OpenAI and other people out there. And we should point out that the founders of Convergence are not sort of total newbies or anything like that. They've worked on AI stuff before. They came across from Cohere, and I think they were working on other things at Shopify even before that.
And I think that's the point, right? Is it almost doesn't matter what model they are using, because I think the bigger point is that they could potentially use any model, right? These models have gotten so easy to swap in and out, right? If you're a recent developer of these products, right, you're going to be able to do this with and access really affordable models as well. But it's going to be putting amazing pressure on OpenAI, right? To unbundle this thing that is now, right, or maybe put it into the $20 a month plan instead of the $200 a month plan, because it simply can't keep charging this much if it's going to stay competitive.
The thing is, though, really up until sort of recently, no one's been really making models specifically for this kind of thing. And there are a number of different kinds of models in this kind of agent. So you've got actually sort of like the visual models that that actually sort of people can see what's on the screen and what do I click and stuff like that. You've got also got the actual sort of LLM model with the actual reasoning or the thinking part in it as well. So it's interesting, like for me, I think it's really fascinating that we're seeing all these models get sort of released and updated. So Microsoft just released the Omnipasser 2 model, which is kind of one of the seeing models for doing the UI and stuff like that. You mentioned UI Tars from ByteDance is more sort of working out what to click model. So clearly there are sort of custom models out there, and it does seem that, like, OpenAI may not have an advantage, uh, and we don't know for sure, do we, exactly what even operator is using. This is the interesting thing, that Sam Altman sort of did a double take after saying, okay, O3 is so great, and then saying, well, actually, we're not going to release O3. We're just going to sort of bundle that with deep research or bundle that with other things.
My point is that, if it's using a meta learning model, or hey, you can just use DeepSeek, right? It's a really good, you know, state of the art reasoning model. You could distill it if you need a smaller version to use. But if that, I think that's what I meant by as a player, right, as a producer of this product, Convergence could essentially use any model without having to build a model of its own, and I think that's pretty powerful, and that's going to bring the price down.
Yeah, okay, I totally agree that, like, they've got the option, they're not committed to one model. So that's the difference between them and OpenAI and them and Anthropic and stuff like that, is that they can go with whoever's got the best model for their use case, and change horses along the way kind of thing. That's and I think that's the kind of play that browser use is going for as well. Like, they support the Gemini models, but they also support DeepSeek, they also support, the OpenAI models. They're pretty much model agnostic. So, the question is, do the startups win here because they're model agnostic and they can, swap to whatever is the best model at the moment? Or do you get it where, now OpenAI and Google and Anthropic actually end up coming up with sort of specialized versions of their models that they don't make public for this stuff, so that it gives their own internal products an edge? And this is something we talked about last time, right? I do think going forward, we're going to see that a lot of the companies realize that the money is not necessarily in the API. If you want to have any sort of consumer business, the money is going to be more in sort of packaging it all together with a very unique model that you've got yourself.
Yeah, great points. I wanted to keep apples to apples comparisons as much as possible. And so what I did is I took the example you did, Sam, right? Find the YubiKey. So you did this on browser use and it found the YubiKey 5C NFC, right? So on operator, I did the same search and it couldn't do it. So well, what it did is it actually went to a UK site, which I thought was really interesting, Amazon.uk.
This is sort of brings up one of the key points about these things though, right? Is are other sites going to collaborate with these AI agents or not? So in this case, like, OpenAI specifically said that they're not going to do the captures. They certainly have models that could do the capture for you if they wanted to, right? The funny thing is, like, the vision models have actually gotten really good at doing captures now. But they've made a conscious decision to sort of, okay, throw it back to the user and stuff. And then there are certain sites that are going to block them. Like, I think the Google sites or YouTube and stuff like that, I think is actually blocking operator, right? Are we in a new sort of paradigm of open internet? Like, what's actually open to agents, what's not open to
Yeah,
agents?
right. And
That's
it,
an interesting thing to think about.
E exactly. You're not sure who's gonna be cooperating, who isn't. An operator did go to some lengths to work with a few sites. It mentioned a bunch of them, right? I think Instacart was one of them, for example. But what's interesting on Convergence is that it found it right away. And notice that I actually made a spelling mistake, Sam, right? It's this again comes back and confirms my point is that it uses its reasoning to say, hey, well, the the users typed SC, right? Typed in SC. Now, well, I guess Amazon came up with something, right? Which was 5C. And so Amazon actually did the thinking in that case, right? But it was able to find it right away and able to find the great price, right? And then gives me a link, which I think is really interesting.
I I must say I was impressed with Convergence on the same task. You gotta wonder, they're probably thinking, "Hang on a minute, why are all these people using this task for YubiKeys?" Um, when they're looking at their logs today. I was very impressed, yeah, like, that it was able to basically get it, and I also like the idea of that it gave me the link at the end of, like, "Okay, I can just take this link and run with it and do, the payment stuff myself." I do think, like, that operator is very ambitious to be able to go to Instacart and buy things for you and to go to the different sites. But you got to wonder, like, how long before people start complaining to OpenAI that, hey, I didn't order 300 burritos from Chipotle. You guys have to pay for this, right? That's going to be the sort of interesting thing as these things start to go wrong. And I think OpenAI is trying to cover their butt there by having all these sort of blocking measures.
I think a lot of these easy searches are things that you can easily search yourself. And so what I would want to do is think about what are the tasks that where we need to go out, do some searching, clicking around, and then bringing back the information and having kind of a more efficient, maybe it's a reporting um, process here at VentureBeat, right? I think with deep research, which we talked about recently, that's an obvious one, right? Where it's also agentic. You mentioned that was the other big agentic move from OpenAI, where you could actually put in a prompt and actually goes out to the web, does the searching for you versus the clicking around on sites for these other specific tasks. So for me, the jury's out on exactly how we would do that, but I could potentially see some uses down the line if we think about it.
I do think that actually maybe the ideal kind of consumer agent is half operator, half deep research, so that it can go out, it can do the research of things for you, but using the web for that. So it was interesting. I was talking to one of my staff that lives in the Philippines this week, and we were chatting about the whole sort of deep research thing and stuff like that. After we did the part about that last week, I and we were talking about how in some ways this is sort of displacing some of the virtual assistants. And so she said, "Oh, okay." She'll go into into one of the Facebook groups there and see like what are these virtual assistants talking about. And sure enough, a lot of them are really getting, perhaps rightly so, paranoid about some of these things because they're basically getting paid to do research and do things that require just a very basic computer and a browser. And that sort of whole revolution sort of kicked off maybe 20 years ago of people outsourcing to various places around the world where they could get, if you think about it in sort of an AI world, where they could get pretty good intelligence for a very low cost and have it do these sort of browser based tasks. If AI takes this over, that's going to be some of the first low hanging fruit of people losing their jobs is going to show up in some of these kinds of things. So I do think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with these trends. It is clear that this idea of whether you call it browser use, computer use, any of these sorts of things, everyone wants to be in on it, right? Whether you're Google, whether you're OpenAI, Anthropic, even like open source people, and obviously a lot of startups and stuff. I think the thing that we don't know is what will be the killer app, and this is always the thing. Even today, people are sort of not 100% sure what are the killer apps for agents in general. I do think we've seen some of them with enterprise stuff, probably coding, but we haven't seen it for the consumer use yet.
Well, Sam, yeah, this is going to be really interesting to see how it all plays out. I mean, for now, I think what we've agreed is that Convergence with its proxy tool is doing really well. As you said, there's these trends coming and going. We will see if it remains faster and that reasoning that I talked about keeps it on in front. But there's going to be a lot of developments here over the next coming days. We've heard Anthropic is probably going to drop something relatively soon. But thanks for watching, everyone. Please like and subscribe for more insights into the latest AI and tech. For deeper analysis and updates, visit VentureBeat.com and sign up for our newsletters.